In the next half hour, Vice President Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz, will speak in Glendale. We have team coverage from Desert Diamond Arena.
And with the Harris-Walz campaign in full swing, we're verifying claims the vice president made about Donald Trump.
Plus, we are getting you ready for road closures scheduled for this weekend.
But first, let's get right to Decision 2024. Any minute now, the vice president and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are expected to address a packed crowd at Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale.
That's right. We have team coverage of the campaign event. Mark Curtis is inside the arena. 12 News journalist Chase Golightly is covering protesters outside the arena. And then coming up a little later on, we'll hear from Bram Bresnick, who was part of the traveling press pool with Vice President Harris. But first, let's begin our coverage with Mark Curtis on the floor where the vice president is expected to take the stage. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Caribe. Right now, Mark Kelly and his wife, Gabby Giffords, are on the stage getting the crowd fired up. This is a sellout crowd here at Desert Diamond Arena, all anxiously waiting to hear from Vice President Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And after attending Republican Vice President candidate J.D. Vance's rally last week, I can tell you that there is a difference. Many in that crowd were angry and resentful over the problems that they believe were created by the Biden administration, and re-electing former President Trump is the only way forward for America. This crowd, though, completely different. They've seemed energetic and optimistic. I had a chance to talk to some of them today about what issues they think are most important. Take a listen. What is the energy like in here to you today?
Oh, it's electric, exciting.
I knew Harris was coming and Walz, so had to do and bring my support.
What is your single biggest issue for 2024?
Women's rights. Let them choose whatever they need to choose. If they need to get something done, like if they're pregnant, they need to get that abortion. You know, nobody wants to kill a baby. Nobody does. But if it means the life of the mother, something has to get done.
What's the most important issue to you in this upcoming election?
I think the most important issue, obviously, women's rights, protecting abortion, but also protecting our democracy. And I think that Vice President Harris is obviously best equipped to do that. She's proven herself, and we're super excited to get her over the finish line in November.
And what makes you excited about this campaign?
Just to have that energy out there, the support behind women's rights.
The positivity.
Yes,
positivity.
When you say positivity, what do you mean?
It's just so negative with Trump. Everything he says out of his mouth is just negative.
The most important thing in this election is just keep the unity.
That was just a small sample, but it's pretty clear, and I heard it over and over again. Women's reproductive rights. This is going to be a huge issue in November. Now, is it the issue that puts the Harris-Walz ticket over the top? What about immigration, which is a huge problem in Arizona, or the economy? 12 News journalist Chase Golightly is outside the arena where he caught up with protesters angry over the prospects of another 4 years with a Democratic administration. Chase?
Mark, those two topics were brought up to us several times, speaking with protesters just outside the arena. We saw pro-Palestinian protesters out here against the vice president. And right behind me, there are a few Trump supporters that have been out here for the last couple hours. They were actually closer to the property, but they were kicked off, and they were actually standing on this median here when they were also kicked off again. As I said, they've been out here for a couple hours just holding flags. As people were walking in, some of the protesters were actually yelling at Harris supporters as they were going in, and those Harris supporters were yelling right back at them. But no fights or anything like that we've seen out here. It's been mostly peaceful from what we can tell. But let's go ahead and hear from what some of those supporters have to say about the vice president.
She's a fraud and a farce. She's been the border czar for 4 years almost now. Our border is wide open.
I'm not too fond of her. I feel like she doesn't know what she's talking about. You know, she's just beating around the bush.
Now, some were also a little surprised there weren't more Trump supporters outside the event who are against the vice president and her campaign. But as far as how long these protests will go on for, they said that they will be out here until the vice president leaves the building and heads back to Phoenix. For now, we're live in Glendale. Chase Golightly, 12 News.